Alright guys, welcome to our intro to Moho part 2. In the previous video we talked about different aspects of our Moho interface. We covered the tools, the style, the menu bar, and then the last thing we talked about was the layer window. Okay, in this video we're going to be taking what we learned in the previous video to another level. Right, we're going to be covering a little bit more advanced part of our layer interface. Okay, so let's start with drawing our shape on our layer 1, and then we're going to make another layer, another vector layer, and we're going to draw a different shape, circle this time, right? Just so we can differentiate them, we're going to be coloring one of them. So I'll color this to be red, make the outline to be a different color. Right, that's perfect. I used my select shape tool to select the shape, then I changed the appearance. Okay, so we're going to name this our star, then we're going to name this our circle. Okay, good. Right, so our circle is on the first layer and then our star is beneath. Okay, now what we're going to do next is we're going to learn how we can put our layers into a group or like into a folder, just like with your on your Windows Explorer. You could fix some of your files into a folder. Same thing is applicable here. So to do that, we're going to come here and click group layer. A group is more like a folder, right? So I'm just going to name it a folder. So this is our folder. Then we're going to drag our circle, put it on top of the folder and release. Same thing with the star, drag, put it on top of the folder and release. We can reorder the position of our shapes. Alright, so I still want my circle to be on top, so I'm going to drag it above. You can see a line separating the folder and the circle, so you can see. So we have both of them inside our layer, so we can open and close our folder. Both layers are inside a folder layer, so we can open and close the folder, right? So we can expand and contract the folder, right? The purpose for this is so that we can be able to have our layer window more organized. Okay, so we have them now. We can turn both of them off by just turning off the folder layer. Okay, remember from the last video we were able to import a picture, so the same way now we can also import a picture. So I'm going to come here and say import an image. So I'll click OK, and I'll come back here and I'll still select a background. Right, so I'm going to select this, scale it up to cover the space. Right, so you see we have our image is on top of the folder, so I'm going to drag it above the folder. So right now our these two shapes are inside this folder while the image is behind. Right, so the first thing I want you to learn how to do is how you can export what you have on your interface. You can export them as an image, or you can preview them. Let's start with previewing first. So we come here, file, we come all the way down here, preview. Right, so this preview is what is visible within this box. Let me turn these things off. Right, so we could have shapes outside of this box. Anything that is outside of this box will not be rendered or previewed when you start doing your preview. And also when you're exporting your animation to a video, anything that is outside of this box will not be exported. Right, let me show an example. You can see that our star is inside and our circle is outside. So if I come down and I say preview, you can see that we can only view our star. And when I go ahead to export this, I can export it as a picture. Come here and say export as a picture. So I'm going to choose a location, our animation class. I'm going to click OK. Right, so when we come down and we come to our animation class, you can see that we have it right here as a picture. So we have it as a picture and nothing else was exported. Nothing else was exported. Right, so always make sure that anything you are working on, you can work outside the box, but once it's time for you to export, make sure they are within the box. Right, so that's it. We have our background, we have our shape. So next thing we want us to look into is our timeline window. That is window right here. This window is going to be our first step to getting into animation. So I'm going to talk a little bit about animation in this video, and then we'll have an entire module dedicated to animation. Okay, so this is our timeline. Right, this is our time marked out. Right, so right now what you're looking at is each of these demarcations are seconds. From here to here is 1 second, here to here is another second, here to here is another second. Right, so from here to here is 1 second. Okay, then the subdivision, I'm going to increase this by pressing the page up and page down buttons on my keyboard, or by clicking these buttons here to increase them. Right, so in between seconds we have what we call frames. Frames are also more like transparent pages of a book stacked together. So we have different pages of a book, about 24 pages of a book stacked together, and they are all transparent. Okay, so any action I make here will be visible, any action I make here will be visible. Okay, so these are frames. So it takes 24 frames to make a second, or at least we set this our timeline, or we set our animation to be 24 frames per second. Okay, we'll explain that in details as time goes on. So this is our timeline. Any action that happens on any other frame apart from frame 0 will be recorded. Okay, so if I get back to frame 0 and I decide to move my circle around, I'm going to use my transform point tool. I'm going to hold down my control key, then I'm going to select all these points. So by holding down the control key, I can select multiple points, and then I'm going to move this shape around. As you can see, nothing happens. But if I should move to the 12th frame, you can see here we have our 12th frame, and I decide to move this shape around, you can see what we have here is called keyframes. Keyframes are used to record each modification that you make to any shape on your workspace. That's what keyframes are meant for. Okay, so it has recorded that from frame 0 to frame 12 that there was a change in the position of this our circle. Let me turn off this background and turn off this star so we can see just this. Okay, so you can see we moved the position of this circle at this frame is this. Then from here to here we moved it. Let me move it further so you understand. So it recorded the position when it was here, and then moved from here to here. It also has recorded the position, right? So that's what keyframes are used for. They are used to record any modification that you make. Peradventure, I could come all the way to the 24th frame and I want to change the physical appearance, so I could change the color to red. Right? So it has also recorded that there was a change in the physical appearance of this our shape from this point to this point. Okay, it didn't record this, so let me just do this. Okay, so from 0 to the 12th frame, there was only a change in position. There was no change in color. From the 12th to the 24th frame, there was a change in color. Alright, so that is what the keyframe is meant for. Sorry, the timeline is meant for. So I'm going to click this button here to get this back to normal so we can view it as it should be. Right, so we have a change in position and a change in color. Alright, so let's go over a few things that we have here. This is where we can control our animation. So when I get back to from frame 1, I could press the play button and have it play. Okay, this is our play button. Right, immediately after that, we can use this to move in between frames. The step back button, we can use it to move in between frames, so you can see we're moving one frame at a time, either in the forward or in the backward direction, one frame at a time. We can use this to jump from the beginning to the end of the timeline duration. For example, if I click this to jump to the beginning of the timeline, and then if I click this to jump to the last part of the duration of our timeline. I'm going to explain what this means. Okay, so we have this to jump to the beginning, we have this to jump to the end, and then we can use this to jump in between keyframes. If I click this to jump to the next keyframe, if I click this to jump to the next keyframe for this particular shape. Right, next after that, we can use this to know the particular frame that we are on. So right now we're on the 24th frame. So I could select this and enter the particular frame where I want to jump to. Let me say I want to jump to the 100th frame. So if I click it, you can see we've moved all the way to the 100th frame. Okay, so let's go back to the first frame. Right, so we're on the 0 frame. Now on the frame 0 is the 0 for all your designing and creation. There's no animation that happens on frame 0. So it's on frame 0 that you can create every single thing that you want to create. Okay, make all your modification, but any modification you make on any other frame apart from frame 0 will be regarded as an animation or will be recorded. Okay, so if you come to the 72nd frame and we decide to change this, change this shape. Now from this frame to this frame, there will be no movement, change in color, deformation. Right? So that's it. I'm going to select all this. Okay, before I delete that, let me also explain that keyframes can be moved around. So if I select this, if I highlight this keyframe, I can drag them forward, drag them backwards, forward, backwards, forward, backwards. Okay, and then I can also, okay, let me delete this for now. Okay, so once I delete that, every animation has been cleared off. So we've talked about this to jump between frames. Next, we can use this to determine the duration of our animation. For example, this animation is going to last for 240 frames all the way to this point. So if I want my animation to span just 1 second, I'm going to enter 24 here. Remember, there are 24 frames in a second. So if this moves from here to here, we're just moving in between a second. So on the 24th frame, I could decide to move this shape to this point. So we can see we can move. So this shape is moving from this point to this point every second. Excuse me. Right, so that's it for that. Okay, so we can use this to modify our workspace. Right now we can use it to change the view of our workspace. Right now we're looking at just one view. We can have two views. Alright, so we have this, just so you can view your, maybe at this point you can decide to use the orbit workspace orbit tool that we talked about, so you can see. Alright, so you can be looking at orbit space from this side, and then we can reset it. Right, so you can change it to an up and down, make it 4, as many as you want to. Right, so we're going to ignore all these other ones. We're going to talk about them in future tutorials, and every other thing above here, we'll talk about them when we get into detailed animation. Alright, so that's it, guys. See you in the next module.